Hi everyone, Scott Minto here. I hope you're well and keeping safe during what is a very strange time in the world right now. Now, I'm really pleased to be joined by the Walsall midfielder Stuart Sinclair for the EFL and Mind's Inside the Mind of series for Mental Health Awareness Week. Stuart, how are you? First and foremost, how's the beard? Same length or longer?
Yeah, no, it's not too bad. Obviously, there's no barbers at the minute open, so it's slowly growing. I did actually trim it a little while ago, but I'm very nervous because I don't want to hash it up. So yeah, it's there. It's doing its own thing. Thank you.
How do you keep it normally? I mean, do you have it trimmed normally? Do you
Yeah,
go
very occasionally. As you can tell, like I'm not one for the hairdressers, so yeah, very occasionally I'll trim it. I've got a good friend in Bristol who I still go down and see, but it's not very often. Yeah, it's kind of become part of me now, to be honest. I've always kind of had long hair, but yeah, my beard's become part of me in the last few years. Yeah.
Definitely. How are you dealing with the lockdown? And who are you with at home?
Just my partner. She's just finishing. She's doing a university degree at the minute, and she's literally just finishing her dissertation now. So it's quite a stressful period for her, actually, because she usually would usually study and do her dissertation and her work in at the library at the university, because she finds that that's a good space for her to kind of set herself and be active in that. But obviously at this period, though, the university's shut, so she's been having to do it at home. So that's been a stressful time for her. So basically I've just been trying to support her and help her as much as I can, and create an environment where she can do that, because obviously she's been doing it for 3 years now, so it's been quite a big part of her life. So yeah, so pretty much been doing that, and then just trying to keep a routine and get up at a set time and go to bed at a set time, and keep myself up.
How hard is that?
Yeah, it's so tough, isn't it? It's because I'm quite an early riser, but since this has taken place, I've had to really work hard to not to go. My other half, my partner, she's a night owl, so she likes to stretch the time in the evening, and I prefer to get up in the morning. So it's kind of like a lockerheads. So, but it's more important that she does what she needs to do at the minute. So I'm definitely going to bed later and getting up later. So yeah.
I was going to ask what are the bad things, what are the good things, but it sounds like you summed it up there. You've got to condense your day together into the sort of afternoon period.
Yeah.
But, look, is it right you grow plants as well, or you certainly
Yeah. This is my conservatory, actually, and in my conservatory I've got loads of house plants, and I've got some tomatoes growing, and some chilies and basil, and I've got some dahlias growing. So yeah, I like gardening. I find it's a nice thing to kind of focus on, because football's quite an emotive situation, and it's obviously performance driven. So it's nice to be able to kind of come away from that, and when I'm gardening, it allows me to kind of just focus on that, or as such, like any hobby, I suppose, is like that. So yeah, so I've been doing quite a bit of gardening, and I just built a back gate, so I've been doing that for a few days and stuff. So yeah, I've been trying to stay kind of occupied as such. What about yourself?
Well, I feel a bit bad in saying this, actually, because we've done some interviews with Sky as well as for EFL and Mind, and sometimes I ask, have you done an activity that you have never done before, you haven't done for a very long time? And my one is actually mowing the lawn. I feel really bad. It's been probably 25 years since I mowed the lawn, and now I've done it a few times. I've had to borrow next door's lawnmower.
Oh my God!
Very good with that. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit surreal in terms of why has it been so long since I did it? It's not actually that bad. But then I feel bad about the gardener we have, and I want him to keep on having a job as well. So, I mean, is there anything that you have started up that perhaps you haven't, or you haven't done for a very long time? I know is it right you're quite into woodwork as well?
Yeah. I've probably that's probably one thing that I've probably done more since the kind of this whole thing that's kind of taken place. I've probably done more of that actually, because I kind of had a little bit more time, obviously, in terms of not having to travel to Walsall as much and stuff. So I've probably done a bit more of that. But I wouldn't say anything really that I've kind of done that's new. I'm trying to think. But yeah, no, I've kind of always tried to have other interests than football, because I always, a little while ago, a few years back, I was very, very driven, because I was probably never the most talented person as a footballer. So I was always acutely aware that I had to work really, really hard. And I probably got too driven in that aspect, and everything was focused on that. And everything around my whole world was football, and everything was driven towards that. My food, my diet, my mental health, everything was driven, and that was my pinnacle. And I worked really hard to get to kind of playing at the level I have. And when I got there, I kind of realised that it was going to end, and then I wouldn't have any, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have anything else. So I then worked a bit harder on kind of taking up interests that I enjoyed doing, but didn't really matter in that football bubble that I had at the time. So so I've probably got 3 or 4 interests that are outside of football that I try to do as much as possible to help me, to give me routine, to support me as well as such.
I think everybody's different, aren't they? Some feel they need to live it 24/7. I was someone that even from a mental point of view, needed to just get away and do something different. I actually was quite lazy when I was a player, to be honest with you. But finding something that's therapeutic and just takes your mind off pressure.
Did you focus all of your whole world into football then when you played?
I did and I didn't. I did. I mean, I look back now and I think perhaps I should have done a little bit more. But then I also was watching a podcast with Steve Harmison and Freddie Flintoff. And Steve Harmison was saying, Nasser Hussain would say, "Did you reach your potential?" And Steve Harmison turned around and said, "Well, I actually say, do you know what? I loved my career. I look back and everything that I did, perhaps I could have been a little bit more professional, but everything I did, I really enjoyed, and I have no regrets for that." So I think it's very important for the person themselves to think, what do I want out of my career? I think you can have a combination of the two, but I think, there were times in my career where I was like you with your time, and you can be totally driven, but then it's on your mind all the time, and you're thinking to yourself, am I actually enjoying life here, let alone football? So I think that's, personally, I think it's really good to try and get a balance, and it sounds like you have.
I definitely have worked harder in the last maybe 2 years to try and create a balance. I think I met my partner 5 years ago, and she definitely helped as well, because I'm not antisocial, but I'm not that social I'm kind of introverted type person. I don't have a massive kind of circle of friends and all that kind of stuff. So I can become quite, I suppose, reclusive in that way. And I think when back then I kind of just literally, football was everything. Everything was focused on football, and maybe I didn't kind of push myself in any other way. Whereas I think now, I think I've probably got a better balance in that way. But I think also you grow and you learn that, don't you, as well? I think as you get older and you kind of grow more, especially in your 20s, I think you and obviously your major part of your career is then is you do learn and kind of figure things out as such, don't you? So I definitely think the balance is definitely the balance, and my mum would say the same, because I think I talk to my mum quite a lot about my mental health and how I kind of figure things out and structure things with football and my family. Quite a big support network, and I think she would definitely say now I'm more rounded as a person, which is probably a good thing. Yeah,
definitely a good thing. We'll come on more into the mental health side of it. I just want to talk to you about growing up. I mean, you're a very competitive midfielder now. People know you, and not just because of the beard and the hair. But growing up, who did you look up to, And who did you want to be?
I think I was born in '87. I think my earliest memory would be the Italia '90. So you know that whole scene of Lineker and Gascoigne, and I had it on a VHS tape, and the emotion that you could see in Gaza was it's I don't know, it's like it penetrates you almost. And
you're a Spurs fan as well, aren't you? The family is.
Yeah. My whole family are Tottenham. My parents were born in North London, and so we're all Tottenham. Two of my brothers have season tickets, so they still go. I think that just that scene, I can imagine that scene and the emotion in that scene, and I think anyone you see who has that emotion in what they shares that kind of emotion across such a broad spectrum in anything they do, whether it's playing football or whatever occupation you have. I think that kind of grabs you, doesn't it? That scene, man, it still gets you, doesn't it? Yeah, so.
It certainly does. Fantastic scene. I remember 1990. I was a little bit older than you. It makes me feel really old to say that here that you were born in '87. In the FA Youth Cup final against Coventry in '87. 3 days later, Coventry played who in the FA Cup final? Spurs 3-2. Yeah, so I remember that. And also, I played against Gaza. I remember playing. Charlton was my first club. So came through the youth ranks, got into the first team at 17, was a regular at 18, and we were then playing in the top division. I remember playing at White Hart Lane. I was left midfield at the time.
That's amazing.
And I went on a little mazy run, and then there was a rubbish shot, right foot shot. Eric Torsford saved it easily. But clearly they sort of thought, right, I'm going to watch out for this kid.
Yeah.
Pat Vandenhal, elbow, off the ball,
no way.
Blood everywhere. Gaza comes up, picks up the ball. He's just looked up. He's got the ball. He's doing his skills. He stopped, picked up the ball, looked at me, told the ref to go over and stop the game and look after this kid, because he must have known what had happened. But again, he didn't have to do something like that. And I was very good mates with Ian Walker as well in the England under-21s. There was one time we saw Gaza with his family on holiday, and you feel a bit sheepish, but obviously Walks knows Gaza. And he goes up to him, and Gaza's, come and sit down, come and sit down. There was 3 of us sitting down with Gaza and his family. This was 1991, so it was after 90. In Portugal. Absolutely amazing. So complete legend on and off the pitch in terms of how good a person he is. I mean, let's carry on talking about Spurs then. I mean, what do you make of them right now?
I think it's a really interesting period, isn't it? I think it's kind of like it's tough. It's obviously changing, isn't it? Obviously after Poch, who had such a massive effect. For Mourinho is such a massive character, isn't he? But to change, it's going to take time. It's like anything, isn't it? It's just whether he gets that time, which I'm sure he will. But yeah, it's an interesting period. It's very obviously you've got some great players as well that have grown through the system, and now you're in that period where are you going to keep hold of them? Are they going to go on to maybe say the top 2 or however you want to look at it? Even though Tottenham are pushing for that, I would say, but yes, it's a tough one.
It feels like we could go on for hours about Spurs, but let's talk about you and Walsall as well. How would you sum up your season personally and the teams as well?
It's been interesting. It almost takes me back to when I first joined Bristol Rovers. The Walsall team's full of good young footballers, and I think as a young footballer, the most important thing is consistency. I think as a young footballer, it's very hard to be consistent. And I think back when I was younger and when I had my scholarship at Luton and I got released, I probably wasn't consistent enough and produced enough to be able to push forwards into a first team kind of scenario as such. And I was still very young. I was very light, and I had all these different things going on. So I think for a young player, consistency is the key, and we have quite a young side, and the more league games and the more games we play, I think we're growing. So that's been really amazing, and been really nice to be involved in and watch, and hopefully be able to help. We've got some great young footballers, and it's an exciting period for the football club, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, and with Darryl Clark as a manager, he's certainly a manager who likes you. He's bringing you everywhere he goes, isn't he?
Yeah. I've worked with the gaffer for a very, very long time, and I think he's really helped me, trusted me, and grown me in as a footballer and as a person as well, I would probably say. So I have I like to think I'm quite a loyal person, and I like to think I would try and do as much as I could for him to help and progress Walsall as a football club. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, popular at Walsall, cult hero at Bristol Rovers as well. How important do you feel the relationship is for you and the fans?
Yeah, I think I've been extremely fortunate, to be honest. I was very lucky that when I went to Bristol Rovers, I think I just hit it at the right. I was there at the right period, and I kind of grew as Bristol Rovers grew from what was just before a hard period for the club. So I think that those two relationships kind of moulded, and it kind of grew together, which was an amazing experience. I loved it, and I made some cracking friends, not just on the football lads, but some friends that are just like that were supporters, and because I'd never been to Bristol before, and as you know, like as a footballer, you go to some place and you've never been there before. I've never been to Bristol before, and it's an amazing city. It's full of amazing art and culture, and it's a really cool city. So I was just like they amalgamated, and it just blossomed. So it was an amazing period in my career, and likewise with Walsall. Really, it's kind of been a whirlwind this last season, and I've really enjoyed it. And I think the relationship between the players and the community is such an important thing. I think it really can push the club forwards, and sometimes it's kind of forgotten, or maybe, I don't know, maybe not forgotten, but it's maybe on the back burner, or not ultimately the main thing. But I think if you can make it that, and you can make it a community, I think it just drives the club forwards. And I think that's what ultimately happened at Bristol Rovers, and I think that's what the gaffer's a massive part of that, and he tries to do that. And that's one of the aspects that I really enjoy working with him, is for one of those aspects. Yeah.
Clubs nowadays so good in the sense that they don't just have it's not about the 90 minutes match experience. It's about a whole day's experience, isn't it? And the community side of things very important. I think fans don't always realise the crucial role that they play during those 90 minutes, how much they can help you and feel like you're a yard quicker, or actually sometimes make you feel like you're running in treacle because you're low in confidence.
Yeah, for sure. So you probably experienced it more than me, because you probably played in front of more people. I'm fortunate to be able to play in front of people, but obviously the guys who play at the top, they're just in front of thousands and thousands of people and stuff. And so, but yeah, just the experience I have. Yeah, you're quite right. I don't think that the supporters truly understand the effect that they have, and the drive. And if you think about it, if you was to be doing something else, and then you had like 3, 4, 5, 50,000 people cheering you on, it's obviously going to affect you. So I think you're right. I don't think they do truly realise. Yeah.
What have been, I mean, still plenty of years to go, I'm sure. You're a personal trainer, weren't you, before professional? So I'm sure your fitness, you go on to past 35, I'm sure. But highs so far and lows so far?
My highs, I would say I don't know if my high is just being a professional footballer. I think everything that has involved, I worked so hard to get there, and now I look back. I used to actually, before I said, I was with when I was a kid. I was John Moore used to be one of our coaches, and he used to say, as a professional footballer, you should never look back on your career whilst you're in your career, because you can get a bit comfortable. And I always thought that was quite an interesting period. So I try not to dwell on successes or failures, because they can change in that way. So, but yeah, I think probably just being a professional footballer is a high. And then promotions and stuff like that I've achieved are amazing. And the like you say, maybe the relationship I've had with the supporters at the clubs I've been at is probably an achievement I see and I hold close to my heart, for sure. And then the negative experiences I've had are probably injuries and how I've had to kind of deal with those injuries, and especially in the first few years. I can remember at Gateshead away for Bristol Rovers, I did my medial ligament. I'd just come back from a fractured foot, and it'd been 30 minutes, about 35 minutes, Gateshead away, and I went over the top of someone and I did my medial ligament, and I knew we were going to get promoted, and I also knew that was my season finished, and I cried the whole way off the pitch, because I'd worked so hard to get into the Football League, and we were so close, and then those last 15 games or however many were left, I was going to miss that period, and I just cried. That was a tough period. I cried the whole way off the pitch. Yeah.
Well, going on further from that then, how tough was that in the subsequent weeks, and how did you deal with the mental aspect of that?
It was extremely challenging, to be honest. I'm fortunate that I've got a really close family. So my all my brothers have played football. All of them played football at a high level when they were younger. And the brother under me, Rob, he's played professional football. And I think my parents, because we've played professional football and my dad was involved in football a little bit, he kind of understood the challenges that a footballer might face in terms of injury. So I was very lucky that I had a really close support network, and I think obviously that's a major point in mental health and people who experience mental health, and maybe people who are on the outskirts of experiencing mental health, to have support networks and to have people that you can truly trust and that you can share like kind of mutual things that you're not going to be almost maybe ashamed, or something that maybe you think you might be judged upon or such. I think that really helped. Like my mum really helped me, and as a footballer who just moved to Bristol, like we were talking about, I had no one. I had my football friends who really helped me as well, and I was single at the time. I didn't have a family and such, so I went home and I basically just sat there for a while and kind of contemplated what had happened. But there was a good Heath Ledger, who's a interesting actor who sadly is not with us anymore. He spoke about. He had this really cool quote that my mum sent me. It was like about being happy and about making sure that when you talk to people, you ask them if they're happy or not about things they have or material things or all these kind of things, but just whether they're happy. And I think I try to push that into periods like that and be like, right, well, I'm still happy, I'm still okay, everything's good, and it'll all change round. Yeah, so.
Brilliant. I mean, it's just fascinating listening to you, Stuart. I mean, does your previous experience help you cope and support others, do you feel, or not?
Yeah, I just try. I do try to do that. I think, as like what we just spoke about, as you progress through your career, you experience different things and go through different challenges. And for sure, I still now. A few weeks back, I was speaking to the gaffer, and I was emotional and in a period where I'd just come out of an injury, and I I was maybe in a little bit of a negative mindset, and we discussed about it and spoke about it. I'm still very emotive in that way, especially when I'm around football. It kind of still presses all the buttons as such. So I try to now, like you say, I try to help the younger lads, and I think that's why I've enjoyed it so much at Walsall, because it's not just maybe about me and the focus that I had on my career, but being able to maybe share that with others. We've got a young lad who's 18, Alfie Bates. He's a tremendous talent, and he's obviously negotiating all that kind of stuff at the minute, and he's going to be a tremendous footballer. And so hopefully I can help people and support people like himself. Yeah.
What advice would you give people who are struggling right now in the lockdown? Whether it be talking. I know Mind have a campaign of have your mates back, physical activity, finding a new activity. Anything like that.
I think that Heath Ledger quote is amazing. I think that's a perfect thing for the campaign. Have your mates back. Like, just ask your friends if they're happy or not. Irrelevant of everything else. Like, everything else is almost irrelevant if they're not happy. And obviously, we go through periods where we're happy and not happy. We go through all these emotions, don't we, on a daily basis almost. But I think that is one of the most key factors is making sure you're happy. And if you're not happy, are you moving towards that as such? I mean, and the support network you have around that can definitely help you in that way, because someone who you truly trust might have a completely different perspective to the way you perceive stuff. Like I was speaking about my mum, I was so focused on football and everything was about football, but she was like, yeah, but it's just football. And she's always been like that. But like, obviously, our house is made, my family's house is made up of, is expanding quickly now because all my brothers are having children, but I've only got brothers and obviously my dad. So there was 6 of us in our household when we were children, and it was just my mum on her own. So she always she never said it very much, but as we've got older, she's always like, yeah, but it's just football. You'll be okay. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's it's good to have different perspectives in that way, isn't it? I think.
Definitely. When you're caught up in that bubble, though, it is easy to think it's all about that. And of course, you want to be the best you can be in whatever you do. But sometimes it needs your mum to tap you on the shoulder, or just someone close, whether it be a friend, a family member, and say, do you know what? Actually, let's look.
Like the info line or anything like that, just to have someone who is there for you to help you, and then to give you maybe a different perspective and something, a moment of clarity outside of your kind of bubble. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
How do you feel about being an ambassador for Mind?
Oh, I think it's an amazing, just an amazing thing. I feel truly honoured that they asked me. It's funny. Being an ambassador is a weird thing, because I've worked with an NHS mental health charity called Recovery Through Sport in Bristol, and that's set up in Bristol, and they do some amazing things as well. It's fairly similar but maybe different in scale. But they do like run a weekly football scheme and really help people who experience mental health problems. And the people who run it, Jacob and Bob, they're NHS, a part of the NHS, and they share their experiences and stuff. And so it's an amazing thing. And they call me an ambassador as well. And I always think, but it's all I'm doing is kind of just, I don't know, helping. Like, yeah, it's just an amazing thing. I think to be called that is amazing, and to be part of something so cool and so special and so kind of moving forward, forefront almost, that I think it's an honour, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, whether you like it or not. You're a role model first and foremost for what you do. People do look up to you, and then, as you say, when you have those kind of feelings that you want to help others, you can see why people like Mind and other charities would want you to be a part of that, especially the way you come across, Stuart, as well. I mean, how important do you feel mental health awareness is in football, you know, in general, but also amongst football fans, because it has been in the past very much a, you know, we're talking to Danny Cowley earlier, and he was saying, oh, in the past it was seen as a weakness. Now it's seen very much as a strength, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, Scott. I think, yeah, there was definitely like maybe, yeah, a stigma around it or such. But I think mental health and experienced mental health can be also not just a negative, or it can be a positive as well. Because if you can be in charge of that and understand it, I think it can drive you forwards as well. And I think people are becoming are starting to realise that it's not a muscle, but it's it's the most important vessel in your body, isn't it? As such, so being able to understand it and move it forwards and develop it, I think definitely is a positive. And I think everyone knows that the stat about the leading cause of death in men under 50 is suicide, and obviously that is linked to mental health experiences and stuff. So I think obviously it's just a huge thing that we make it aware and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think it's important.
I've said this before. I've got a very close family member who has prostate cancer, and obviously prostate cancer is a big thing as well. And a few years ago, I used to wear the badge, but now, and I have been for the last year or two, wearing the mind, because I'm like you. I think that the mind is such a powerful thing. You can have all the money in the world and still not be in the right place mentally. It's irrelevant, isn't it? It's about how that is. And you're right. Are you happy?
Yeah, it's that kind of, isn't it? It doesn't matter
what. Outside looking in, people might think you've got everything. It doesn't mean to say you're happy.
Yeah, it does. It honestly, yeah. That's such a good way to put it. It doesn't matter what you have. If you're not happy, then it's all irrelevant, isn't it? It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
No.
How important do you feel as a partnership like the EFL with Mind?
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? Because I think football's so emotive and so important to so many people, and probably the balance is still leaning towards men, although women are becoming more and more involved, and that's amazing in its own right. But like that stat, isn't it, of unfortunately, that is probably a broad spectrum of people and supporters who come to watch. So being able to put across that message and make people aware that there is support and there is networks. And I think what we spoke about a little while ago with the community thing as a football club, especially I think for lower leagues and in the EFL, having a community and having us all in it together, such a strong thing. I think obviously as the Premiership has grown and become so big, it's so vast, and it's almost touching the whole world now. But I think as Walsall Football Club in League Two, that was founded in, I think it was 1888, and has a strong structure and a strong community still now, I think having us all together and being able to support each other is an amazing thing. And I think the EFL Mind partnership really does kind of bolster that and help it, and can only act as a positive, that we can kind of spread the message and be on the forefront of trying to push mental health and kind of giving people ideas and giving people, like, my structure in professional football helps me and gives me kind of a focus in my day-to-day life. And I think that can help obviously other people, and hopefully if they can hear that experience and it helps even one person, that's an amazing thing, isn't it?
It certainly is indeed. You kind of half answered my last question, but I'll just ask you to sum up and conclude. What would your advice be to people who, you know, especially at this particular time at the moment, are struggling a little bit mentally?
I think to first of all, take a deep breath and just kind of settle yourself. And then second of all, to kind of think if there is someone in your support, in your network, who can give you help you or give you a different perspective and kind of support you, even if that's just through text message or it's tough now, isn't it? Because we don't have that kind of, as such, kind of, we can talk face to face like we are, can't we, Scott? But we can't touch anything. We're quite tactile, aren't we? So can't have that support type network. So I think just maybe being able to have someone who you can lean on and whether that's a friend, or whether that is Mind's info line, or going to one of the Mind community things that they've set up. There is help out there, and even if that means contacting the football club and the community, because most football clubs now have really strong community offices going on, and whether it's maybe trying to contact them and talking that way, but just kind of maybe reaching out. I think that's the main thing that I'd like to say, and yeah, hopefully everything will work out, won't it? And just remember that quote, that just to try and be happy. I think that's a good thing. Don't worry about all the jargon on the left hand side. Think about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Great conclusion, Stuart. Listen, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate and really enjoyed talking to you as well. Good luck with everything, and hope to see you back on the pitch soon. Remember, if you need any further information or advice, visit mind.org.uk. Thank you.